Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
For those who watch us for the first time, or also for those who watch us not for the first time, it's a good reminder for us and for you. My name is Noah, and I'm with Ruti, my partner, and my teacher, and my coach, and my friend. And what we're doing here every Friday morning is we are talking, listening, inquiring through different topics, when what we want to do is to learn the difference, to discern between the dimension of thoughts, ideas, things that we inherited, interpretations we created about life, about ourselves, about each other, and what does it look like, what does it feel like when we live not according to thoughts. And important to say that we are not trying to switch ideas like, okay, this is not true, so let's find what is true. No, we want to be in this gap or in this space that we don't fill up the space with a new thought or with a new idea, but actually just living in this vibrating dimension that is not made of thoughts. That is us when we are not clinging or trying to make order, but on the contrary, living the inherited order.
No.
No. Like
it's the inner order. It's the natural order.
Yeah, like animals. the one that is, that is constantly obeying what is. So today, you want to add something to the introduction, Ruti?
No, it was great.
Okay, so today we're talking about this silence of women. And sometimes I take a phrase from Wikipedia, or I look for a point of reference to work with or to start with as a starting point. But today we decided that we're not going to do it. We're going to talk very personally, very privately from our experience. Also, I'm not sure if it's right to even call it a topic. Speaking of ideas, the silence of women is not an idea. Is very much is. It's not something we invent. It's not something we. It's not a story we tell ourselves. It's really something that we do. I mean women. And I talk for myself. And like we said, I'm going to start with an example. I'm going to start with a sharing from my personal life. Ruti and we started a coaching group. And I was coaching one of the participants, and it was a man. And sometimes in the coaching sessions, he would insult me. He wasn't so happy about me coaching him. I'm younger. I have less experience in spiritual work. I have less experience in life. Maybe he had his reasons, not maybe. From his side, he had his reasons. And he didn't want that so much. He didn't want to coach with me so much. But he was kind of forced to, because that was a part of the course. and he would just insult me and patronizing me and trying to making me smaller and making me feel less worthy. And it was hard. You can imagine it was hard to coach him. It was even hard to have a conversation with him for me. But I was also in a position that I had to cope with it. I had to lead. I was the coach. And it was very challenging. And then we invited Ruti to be with us in the sessions, to keep a third eye, like to have and as a mentor, as a more experienced coach. And then Ruti looked at me and she said, you don't notice that he's insulting you. He's being nasty. He was there. It wasn't behind his back or anything. It was, and she said, you're being nasty and you don't notice. What is happening here? What are you missing? And I was like, right. I don't see it. I mean, I see it, but it's like, I don't let it hit me, but it hits me. And you asked me, why are you blurring this? Why are you pushing it away? Why don't you let it hit you? He hurts you. He wants to hurt you. Why aren't you getting hurt? And suddenly it was like such an obvious, like, what am I doing? I am hurt. I am insulted. And then I realized that I've been doing this for years. Just taking, not taking, but taking insults. I say insults as a general name for all kinds of sometimes nasty, sometimes like humoristic stings. So I would go from here. What are we doing? What are we doing by pushing this away? Can I say why am I doing this?
What's happening inside you when you're doing this?
I'll say the voices that are talking in me. One is saying, don't take it seriously. It's his.
Wait. These are the explanations that come up or that you're using, and each one of you or of us may use in order to justify the fact that we're not allowing ourselves to be really hurt. Okay, it becomes an opinion, it becomes an explanation, it becomes a method, it becomes something.
A strategy.
But I'd like to ask you, if it's all right with you, to go, I'm going to do the same, to just go like lower into the beginning, the origin of the need to not be hurt or to not acknowledge what is actually happening, but to make good, to maintain peace, to not provoke, not provoke, not endanger anything. Okay, why is that? And why it's maybe these are two questions. One is, why is that what's coming up, what comes up? And the second is, why do I believe that? Because I am hearing the other voices. You said there is another voice there, but we either hear or believe the one saying, don't let it be. Don't let it touch you. Don't let it rock you. Rock you in the sense of shake you, destabilize you. Don't let that happen. Why? It's like instructions being given to you very harshly. The mind is experiencing danger, and it gives instructions that must be met and must be implemented as they are given. So
I think one of the things that scares me the most is that to confront, like to if I'll say something, then he will say something in return. I will say something again, and he will prove me wrong. And he will turn it against me again, and I will be helpless, and I will have no good explanations. I will have no good accusations, and I will come out a stupid, sensitive, crybaby, victim girl. So it's not only that I stood up for myself, it's like a double hit. Now again, that's one big fear.
Yeah.
That I will stand up, but I won't be able to maintain this position of standing up.
Yeah.
And there's another fear that if I will see the situation for what it is, I will hate him so much that I won't want anything to do with him. I will give up on him. And the next step is I will give up on men. And I love men. I mean, so that's radical, you know? So it's better, like you say, it's better to shush this and say, okay, just get along, you know? It's not so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go a bit with each one of them. And as I speak, please interrupt me or, make things more accurate or do whatever you think. I'm just exploring this with you. So actually, what happens to us so many times when we speak with men is that we are compelled to speak in their language or in the way that they understand things, which is, first of all, very, very present. Like the way they understand things, the way they acknowledge something, the way they comply to something is very defined, very, very harshly defined, and many times not aware that what they are seeing is something very limited and and limited. I have no other words. It's like they look from a place that is set by a certain kind of logic, what we call the logic. We as women, we call it many times, this is logical. Yeah, if someone attacks you, you need to attack him back. That's logical. Is it? Is it really? But when we adopt that logic, and when we comply to men saying to us, this is the only logic there is, and they're not saying it's the only one. They say this is the way that it is. And I dare say it's not because they want to control, maybe sometimes, but mostly it's because the way they experience themselves is through these opinions and this order, this logic. So when something doesn't fit that logic, they are sure that this is something that is that's not yet well enough understood, not yet being brought to its right place, taking its right place. So in a moment, the man thinks, when I explain this, or she realizes this, then we can explain. I'm saying it again. There's no contempt in what I'm saying. There is pain in what I'm saying, but there's no contempt. And there's also this is not an accusation. This is stating a fact. Okay? Men perceive themselves as something that is defined, that is finite, that is done already, that may be flexible, but that is not something to be revealed. It is something that is already known. So that when a man comes to speak with you or to be with you, he hears what you're saying. He understands what you're doing through his own definitions and only through them, meaning two things. One, that's the logic, and the world needs to be either understood or comply to that logic. And whoever is not, that is hallucinating, is living an illusion, is dumb, is immature, or whatever comes up along these lines. The second thing is that it's not only, as you said in the beginning now, it's not only that this is the way he sees things, and then through that, if you don't comply or don't agree, then you're mistaken and you need to be brought back into, the path. But also, he's having great difficulty. And when I say great difficulty, I mean even it is sometimes really looks impossible for men for themselves, for men themselves to realize that there is something other than their logic and the way that they see it. That's why when you begin to speak with a man, saying that either you convey your dreams or you convey your love in unorthodox and not common ways, then he may not understand. But also he will try to, or if you're saying that you're not well with what's, you're not well in the relationship makes you painful or lonely or puts you down, sucks the energy out of you, and so on. When you begin to say this, either to the positive side or to the negative side, what he is hearing are two major things. One is, I don't understand. Speaking words that I can understand. Did I harm you in any way? And then you say, no, I don't mean that you harmed me by intention. Okay, so you think I didn't want to coach? Are you accusing me? So one is you're not understood. Make yourself understood, because the possibility of me making myself able to understand is not an option, because the way that I see things is the way. And I'm again I'm not talking about arrogance. I'm talking about ignorance. There is no acknowledgement that there is something else, that there is another dimension in which he himself would experience himself differently. Not only would he be able to understand you, and more importantly, be in a dimension that you have now created for him. That it is possible for him to look from there, to see much more, to move in the world. His motion, the way he's alive would look differently, would be really, really beautiful. But it's impossible for him to go there. So that's the first thing, because he believes that where he's looking from is the only way to look from. And the second thing is, since you'd be a bit stubborn and you'd say to him after 2 times, you're not listening to me, or what I'm saying is that you're not getting what I'm saying, what he understands is that he's a thing. And since he's a thing, and you're now saying that this thing is not trying enough to understand, is not able to grasp what you're saying, is not loving as you wish him to be, you're judging him, and you're confirming again the greatest fear of anyone who believes, men and women, who believe that they are a thing, is that you're saying that he's not good enough. Okay, so you're calling him to open up, to see, to understand, and what he's doing is giving no echo to the vibration, the dimension, the beauty, the wisdom that you bring forth on the one hand, and on the other hand, he does not understand and says to you that you're judging him, you're pushing him away, you're making fun of him, or you're arrogant, and you're saying actually that he's not good enough for you. After a while, when these conversations happen, we stop talking. And the silence comes from there, because every time you become more desperate, more with no zeal, with no passion, you come into the conversation, you find yourself in a war zone. It's not only in a war, but the whole atmosphere is of a war, of an either or, of prices to pay. And you become either nagging or cruel. You become, in his eyes, and you look at yourself, and I find many women coming to coach and saying, I don't understand what's wrong with me. There's something fundamentally not right in me. If I try to call him to understand love really and explore it with me, and sometimes these are really simple things that he might do or comply to, and they will open up a whole new dimension. But since he is unable to grasp this possibility, we become desperate and we give up, and we talk to other women which experience things very similar. And that might lead me either to think that I'm really, that something is like distorted in me, or just bad.
Crazy.
Crazy. Or that I'm desperate, I give up on him, and then I live with someone, or I'm being with someone who I gave up on. That's terrible.
You're coaching a lot of couples and a lot of women and men separately. 2 years ago, we started writing a book, you and me. We call it Oh Men. We started it as a book for men, exploring what we're saying now. And then pretty fast, we realized it's a book for women about men and women. And since we started writing it, hopefully we will finish it soon. You said you started coaching according to those understandings, which are not conclusions, but they are revealing itself as we go, as you coach, as you explore together with these men and women and couples. Can you, of course, with keeping their privacy, can you share what happens when a man sees this, when a man acknowledges this moment that he is not a thing, like you're saying, and what happens, because it's not true that, well, I say this carefully, it's not true that they are limited.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really limited. There's something in the mindset that is limited.
Any society,
Yeah.
in psychology, it's not a small thing. It's a really big thing, but it's not who they really are.
Yeah. So maybe you can share from your experience in the past months, this motion that happens when we acknowledge this it's like we're falling every time we're falling into this hole, into this trap of women trying to say something in their language and men perceiving this in their language, and boom, and we fall into this trap of misunderstanding. This is so tragic.
Right. And coming from tragic, I would say that the first thing, I have the privilege of coaching people who are already aware. They are coming to be coached by me because they are already quite aware, okay? And one of the things that I've been hearing a lot is men saying, and with pain, not with, maybe there is also anger in them, but mostly with pain, saying, I cannot hear anymore that I am supposed to change, that I'm supposed to be different than I am. And understanding what we were just talking about, and it's really a gate to what we explored in the book and what we are exploring by our own lives, is that when we acknowledge that we're not ready to be expected to be changed all the time or to be different, then that's the place, that's the exact time and place where the man is taking responsibility for where he is, okay? Because after we called the book Oh Men, we added the line, a book of hope, okay? And this book is very difficult for us to write because as for everyone, to acknowledge the truth in that sense is not easy because it's very far from the dreams that we have about being a couple, about vowing, making a vow for being together for the rest of your lives, and so on. There are many dreams that are being punctured, that we need to let go of in order to really acknowledge what's happening. So when that man said, I cannot hear that sentence anymore, when I coached him, I said to him, great, I'm really glad that that's the way it is. So don't think about changing, but be responsible to see for yourself where you are at and what is the reality that's being created by you thinking that you are a thing. And I gave a few of what we saw in the book, a few understandings or a few acknowledgements that make it possible for a man to take this out of, the cellars or out of the back of your head and putting it in front so that your eyesight can grasp what you're actually saying. Because when you say, I am a thing, it creates a whole huge reality. It has grave and great implications.
I am a thing. I want to make sure that we're saying the same thing. I am a thing. It means this is who I am. This is what I'm like. This is what I can. This is what I love. This is what I can't. And don't ask more of me. You can ask less, but please don't ask me to be something that I am not.
Yeah.
Love me as I am. Accept me as I am.
Exactly.
And don't ask me to change. Yeah. By that, that's what you're calling, I am a thing.
Yeah.
I can turn, I can maybe expand, I can move from here to here, but that's it.
Yeah, right. So that is something that sounds very logical, because to the mind looks, and it works by the logic that we're used to call logic. Yeah, what we see, what the man does, what he doesn't do, what he can do. And then you're saying, well, if you love him, then don't ask him to be more than he is or to change what he is. But there are two great buts here. The first one is that when I am saying how it is for me, for example, I can't hear anymore someone expecting me to change, that is one, I don't know, John. But the other John, which is the natural John, what he really is not only able to change, he is on a continuous basis changing. He's all the time letting go of things, otherwise he would start dying physically, first of all. He would start dying, and then he would also die, okay? Because there is nothing in this world that doesn't let go, and then being, what time has come becomes what it is. If it's a skin that's already ready, then it's ready. Then that's time. The time for that skin, that layer of skin, is now. If I don't get this, then I'm either hallucinating or fast asleep. So that's one thing that happens when a man says, I can't hear anymore this. First of all, he would allow himself not to please and not to judge himself harshly. That's very good, because now he's not vacant, but he's free enough. His attention is focused enough to be really, for him to really hear what he's saying and what is happening and what the other person is saying to him, not only through his automatic thoughts. The second thing is that he's also able to hear his nature speaking to him, because his nature is not limited. His nature is not defined, and he is not a thing. And love can take him and takes him to places he would never dream of if he let it. He doesn't when he thinks he's a thing. But when he's allowing himself to be where he is, questioning himself being a thing, okay, then he won't hear what his spouse is saying to him as a judgment or as a declaration of him not being good enough, but he would hear her calling him to be what he really is. Not to be what she thinks he should be, not to be what she thinks that she deserves him to be, but calling him to be what he really is.
That because she can also, because she can also have an image of him, wanting him to be something she wants him to be. And by putting this on the table, we are finally, we don't need to protect it. Here it is. And now we're free to play with it, to explore it. If we keep defending it, nobody's coming. Yeah.
Exactly. That's why also when we talk about relationships, we talk about one with the other, through the other, thanks to the other. It doesn't mean that now he would do whatever she wants him to do, as you said now, or she would comply to him necessarily. Absolutely not. The dimension that would be revealed once I stop complying or pleasing someone, but yet being revealed to myself and then revealing to the outside the dimension that is different, then it becomes a whole new reality. When we talk about the way that you coached, once you were able to acknowledge that you are hurt and that this person meant to hurt you, which is also not an easy thing to acknowledge, right? Then once you were able to acknowledge this yourself and then say to him, saying to him, this would not do, okay? Don't even try. This doesn't work, not for you, not for me, and it's not going to happen here. Whether you say it by words or you come like that into the session, then what happened to him, that he could at last stop coming out of that automatic place, stop being in some kind of a competition or a controlling game with you. And at last he could speak honestly and be there, sometimes vulnerable, sometimes super smart, sometimes asking you for guidance, and sometimes cynical. Okay, but he became a true man and not an image or a poster that he created to himself along his life. And thinking he's a thing is also something he inherited. So he became less of a thing and more of a man, a human being, exploring who he is and allowing different kinds of relationships to be possible in his life.
So what would you say we women, because our topic today, or what we want to explore through men and thanks to men, is our silence. So from your experience and from what we're saying here, if we need to give some, not tools or strategies, but some kind of guidance. I know it really, really helped me to encounter our silence and what makes us silent, and also how to not silent. Yeah.
So I would just like to mention, and then I dive into what you were saying, Another reason that's very common for us women, to the result of which we become silent. And that is that we believe in them. It looks crazy, like, why should you be silent if you believe in them? But
if you believe in them,
in men, okay, you know that they are beautiful, and you know that their soul is one with you, and you know that they know love. Okay, you know it from the bottom of your heart. That's what you said before. I can say many things that may be harsh, may be difficult to hear or to be, and yet I cannot believe that they are like empty and vacant of this love that is this nature of us all. But, and it's a very important but, when we know this, that that's the nature of us all as human beings and cannot be otherwise, then we make the mistake of speaking to them, seeing them, relating to them, bonding ourselves to them as if that is what they are, not acknowledging what we've just spoken about very elaborately. Doing that is actually being, I want to say, bravely disappointed, and like someone takes you in his hands and then just drops you. And the fall itself and the pain of the clashing on earth is very, very painful. And because we are not relating to the two dimensions, one is real and one is an illusion, but it determines a lot once we believe in it. So if a man thinks he's a thing, and I'm trying to, there are many women, and I'm included, who can say that there was a certain moment when they knew that they made a mistake by thinking that the man that they are with is what they thought he was in real life. Now I want to explain. He is that man in real life. He never ceases to be. Okay, that's his nature, and he doesn't do that, and it's not a light that you shut off. But while he doesn't know this, he's not aware of that, then what he is living in actual life is what his mind is telling him about him being the thing, about him having an edge, that beyond that edge, you either become crazy or you lose control or you're in grave danger. So that that's how he lives. That's the way he shows you. That's the way he related to you. That's the way he chose to do what he's doing in life, work and so on, where he chooses to live, how he chooses his moves. Not knowing this is irresponsible. So
as a woman, not acknowledging.
Also as a man. Also as a man. But now I was talking about women.
Yeah.
So all the time being like, the words that women say, it's unbelievable. I cannot grasp this. It's unbelievable. Well, it is believable. After so many times we've experienced that, it is believable.
You better believe it.
Yeah. Just now, a moment before we started the live, the session, I had an experience like that. And my older girl, she's now 33, she said to me, Mom, remember, he was never there. You love him, but he was never there where you want him to be, and now you're again, in pain because he's not. It's not. It's just not. Believe. Acknowledge this. Stop bumping into the wall just because it's you again.
Just because you see the love, you know the magic. Yeah, okay.
And I also know that in him, in his true nature right now,
yeah,
I know that it's there.
yeah, but he's not acting upon it. He's not living accordingly. So yeah, exactly.
It's not only that he's not acting accordingly, he doesn't know.
Yeah.
So what you were saying about this silence, there are two kinds, as far as I understand. There are two kinds of silences. One silence, which we know very well, is a silence of despair. The other side of I can be, I can feel desperate and with no hope and no passion, because I gave up on him or on me. That I believe that something is wrong with me, that I'm distorted in some way, that I'm just like wrong. This kind of silence is very sad. And it also is very irresponsible, because this says that I become silent because if I don't see a way, there is no way. Okay, if I don't see how, there is no how. Okay, and then I stop. It's like folding my wings above my head, closing my heart, and just being there like a shell. Okay, but not really being there. That is irresponsible because, first of all, you saw correctly. What you saw there, what you fell in love with is there. But you also saw, I hope, at a certain time in life, you saw that it was not like you thought, and that the man is not what you thought he is. Our mind is used to say, well, if that is so, either because he cheated you, which may not be the case, he just doesn't know that, but doesn't mean that he cheated you, but sometimes he did. He made you think that he is this nature while he's not. Okay?
Yeah. Maybe he was also confused and also not cheating by being with another woman, but pretending to be someone. And then,
yeah. And sometimes he doesn't know that he's pretending, that he's surviving.
Yeah,
he wants you and he needs to survive. So he, it's like when you dive into the water, you do good with the water. You just plunged in, and then you have to do good.
Yeah.
You have to make good. When I'm talking about what's irresponsible. Being irresponsible is by thinking that if he did that, just because he's not the man you thought he was, or because he pretended to be something, or he disappointed you enough, then then there's no way. And he's not the man that you thought, and you need to go away or become silent. Now, it doesn't mean that we'll never go away. We will sometimes. But the main thing is that when we acknowledge that he is not what I thought he was, and when he said, I love you, he didn't mean what I thought he meant, although it was very beautiful, but it didn't mean what I thought it meant. And when he's living as if he has an edge and he is a thing, then this silence gives up on him and gives up on me, and is not in touch with his true nature and my true nature. The book we are writing says that's the opening, that's the point of origin. That's opening the gate. That's not where you stop, that's where you begin. Because when you acknowledge the way that it is, that means that now you need to ask, how is my true nature going to guide me in order for me to be able to live as a loving person, as love, as higher wisdom in the situation as it is, not as I hoped it would be or as I thought it to be mistakenly. Okay? When a woman does that, she also opens up new dimensions for a man, which doesn't mean that he would say yes. I hope he would, and many times he would, but many times he also wouldn't. And then she would also need to ask what to do. And in that manner, when you said, I'm afraid that if I see things as they are, I would give up on him, sometimes that would mean that you would give up on him. Okay? And not acknowledging this is just, you need to know this is a possibility in order to not cling on to something or make belief, because those two they explode in the end, not nicely, and having victims. And on the way, instead of becoming more aware one through the other, with the other, thanks to the other, we become more numb. You can see sometimes older couples, and now not only older couples, I can see now young people who look as if they're dead. Their bodies are moving and they speak and they breathe, but I see no life in them. It's coming from there. It's coming from giving up on things, not knowing that the nature, my nature as a human being, my nature as a woman, and his nature as a man can communicate, and not the shell, not the image.
Can you say something? I'm taking us back to what you said, that I asked you in the sessions when men acknowledge that, and then you said, they say, I cannot hear one more time that you say this. So what we said, they bringing it to the table, acknowledging where they are, how they feel for real, what they see now for real.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say something about the next phase?
Yeah, so that's the second kind of silence. The second kind of silence, which is very blessed, and I feel that we're very privileged to have this possibility and to really, comply or say yes to it in a very fundamental and total way. This silence is the silence that occurs when the mind becomes silent. It has nothing to say, because the roads we've already taken, the methods we've been using, the sentences that we've been repeating again and again, the images that we had in front of our eyes, seeing the man or the woman in front of us only through those images, and trying to keep the relationship, lower expectations, brush aside whatever interrupts or hurts me. That is something that the mind is unable to say to me anymore, because he knows that I would not listen. That is already like marked as something that these are the roads that I'm not going to take, because I acknowledge that these roads lead to misery for everyone. This is something we're not so inclined to do, because it looks, first of all, it feels helpless. Second of all, in the way we got used to understand the world, it says about you that you're weak. And since it says about you that you're weak, it also says that you're in danger. So you might not want to do that. And it's also, the this exact place where we're used to having words. We're used to believing, at least, and sometimes, many times, not only believing, but having paths, ways of doing things, and so on. And suddenly there is very deep silence. Okay, silence that is not because I'm holding back not to talk or not to think. It's a place where it's like in Judaism, in the mystics of Judaism, it is called the empty or vacant place. This is a place where thoughts cannot occur. It is not, I'm not brushing away the thoughts, I'm not holding back not to think, but it's just, it's so silent and it's so not made out of thoughts that ideas or something to hold on to, identities, cannot survive, cannot even come to life when that is so. That is
it's really intense. It's a really intense experience. Also, so that's also why the mind says, get away, get away, get away, come back to thoughts, because we're not used to being in such stillness.
Right. It's not so, what's intense is not the situation, it's what happens in us, because we're afraid that we're either going to die, to become insane, or to maybe we believe that we'll end up depressed in a bad way, yeah, having a depression. That is something that the mind, it's like buttons that the mind is pushing, believing that he's protecting us from deteriorating to insanity, death, or depression. Actually, what is happening is that the mind is very limited, and then because it believes he's a thing, and then from there he makes a lot of noise, because once you're there in this silence, the mind is experiencing just, moments before death. Okay, so the energy moves in very hectic rhythm. Nothing is understood. Nothing can be put into words. Even there's no sense of direction. Am I going up now or down? Yeah. I'll just end by saying this: in Berlin, the Holocaust Museum. I think it's the Holocaust Museum. There is a space where the ground you're walking on is very like this. I forgot the word in English. It's
steep.
And you don't know this because the structures of, it's like tombstones. You look and
it's the Holocaust monument. Yeah, it's the Holocaust monument.
No, it's not the monument. It's the museum. It has like that memorial.
Okay.
It's when you look to the sky, they seem to be, or they are at the same height. And so you don't experience, and there are many, many, many like tombstones, nothing written on them. There's no sense of space. So what happens to you is that you walk thinking that you're walking on a flat area, but actually you're walking like this. So your heart starts to work hard, yeah, and your body feels as if there's something very intense in it, but you don't understand what's happening because you are convinced that you're walking on a plane. So that is exactly the same. And what happens there is that when you at last get to the end of it, and then you feel dizzy, you might have nausea, and then you lean into the across the wall, you lean into the wall, then you suddenly feel that you're not just leaning on the wall, but you're like lying on the wall. It's like, because it's like that. And then you start to understand what's happening. And then there is silence. And in that silence, there's a very, very small plaque there saying something like, the words are very strong and very simple. If you feel nausea and you feel that the whole world became crooked, you can just imagine what happened in 1939. Okay, that's it. And it's so, the experience is so shattering. So it's like you're not the same person when you leave. Because we do almost anything. The heart works very hard to comply to what's happening. But if we allowed ourselves to be silent, but not to die and not to close our hearts, then we'll be able to hear the voices coming from that silence. That's the calling.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.